This isn't just a story about a soldier. It's not just about a president, a speech, or a crowd. It's about what happens in the space between duty and grief, between silence and truth, between a man who couldn't carry his pain anymore, and a nation that needed to listen. The stadium was alive, thousands gathered under bright lights, flags waving in the breeze, the proud rhythm of patriotism pulsing in the air. President Donald Trump was set to speak at a Veterans Appreciation Rally in Colorado Springs. Months of planning, media coverage, security, all leading to this moment. But what happened that day? No one, absolutely no one, could have seen coming. In a world of prepared speeches and political headlines, sometimes the most powerful moments are the unscripted ones. Because in the middle of that packed arena, beneath the roar of the crowd, something deeply human was unfolding. One soldier, sitting silently in the front row, tears running down his face, not hiding, not seeking attention, just breaking, openly, painfully, honestly. It wasn't part of the program. There was no plan for what came next. But that moment, a single glance, a pause from the podium, would spark a conversation that stretched far beyond that stadium, one that reached across states, into quiet homes, into the hearts of families still carrying invisible wounds. This story is about loss, about brotherhood, about carrying the weight of guilt and what it means to finally be seen. It's about a young girl who never knew her father, and a man who held the last words he spoke. And it's about what happens when someone in power chooses, even for a moment, to put the script down and simply listen. What began as a speech turned into something far more powerful. A connection, a reckoning, a movement. This isn't politics. It's personal. So before we take you into that stadium, into that moment, and into the lives forever changed by what unfolded, just remember, sometimes, the most unforgettable stories don't start with big headlines. They start with a single tear and the courage to say, "I'm not okay." This isn't just a story about a soldier's tears. It's about how one unscripted moment, one unexpected pause in a political rally, sparked a wave of healing across the nation. When President Trump locked eyes with a grieving veteran, what happened next would change lives forever, including a young girl who never knew the full story of her fallen father. Until now. The stadium buzzed with energy. Flags waved, cameras flashed, and the crowd erupted in cheers as former President Donald Trump stepped onto the stage at a Veterans Appreciation Rally in Colorado Springs. The event had been months in the making, a moment to honor the brave and announce plans for military families. Trump began his speech with the usual greetings, met with thunderous applause. But just moments in, something unusual happened. He paused. His gaze fell on a man in the front row, dressed in a crisp army uniform, shoulders trembling, tears streaking down his face. He wasn't hiding it. He wasn't performing. He was simply broken. Trump fell silent, closed his folder, and stepped away from the podium. Then he pointed directly at the man. "You, sir. What's your name?" The crowd gasped. The man stood slowly. "Staff Sergeant David Keller, sir." "Come up here, David," Trump said. Keller hesitated, then moved toward the stage. This wasn't in the script. But some of the most powerful moments never are. As David stood beside the president, tears in his eyes, Trump placed a hand on his shoulder. "Take your time." "I wasn't supposed to be here today," David began, his voice shaking. "My best friend, Corporal Elijah Grant, and I deployed together. We promised to look out for each other. But he didn't make it home." The crowd listened in stunned silence as David's story unfolded, a story of loyalty, guilt, and grief. He carried the weight of surviving, the pain of not knowing if he had done enough. Trump listened quietly. Then he said, "You didn't come back broken, David. You came back with a heart too big to carry it all alone." David wasn't alone for long. One by one, others in the crowd began to stand. A mother who lost her son in Fallujah. A wife whose husband couldn't sleep after 3 tours. A daughter who came home, but left her smile behind. What began as a political speech transformed into a sacred space for shared pain and healing. Then something unexpected happened. David mentioned Elijah's daughter, Amelia, who he'd never met. She was 3 when he died, David said. I don't know where she is, but I want her to know her father loved her. Trump gave a quiet signal to his team. Hours later, word came, they found her. Amelia Grant, 14, living in Michigan, and unaware that her father's best friend had just told her story to the nation. The next day, David boarded a plane. In a quiet town, Amelia opened the door to find the man her father had once called a brother. I'm David, he said. Your dad was my best friend. Together, they opened a box filled with Elijah's memories, photos, dog tags, a journal, letters he had written to Amelia, stories David remembered, laughs they once shared. A bond formed instantly, built on memory, grief, and love. That reunion sparked something bigger. David and Amelia were invited to Washington, D.C. to speak at the Veterans Honor Gala. Their story had gone viral. Veterans across the country were reaching out. A movement had begun. Inspired, they launched the Elijah Project, a non-profit to connect children of fallen soldiers with those who served alongside their parents. Letters poured in. Veterans shared their stories. Children began to heal. A year later, Trump returned to Colorado Springs. This time, David and Amelia stood with him from the beginning. Last year, Trump said, I stepped off script because I saw a man crying. I didn't know it would lead to a movement. But May. Amelia stepped forward. My dad died a hero. But now he's more than a folded flag. He's a story we are still writing. As the crowd applauded, David smiled. Sometimes, all it takes is one moment, one voice, one person willing to listen. Because the best parts of life aren't planned. Moral of the story. From one soldier's pain and a stranger's compassion, a national movement of healing was born. This isn't just about grief, it's about connection, legacy, and the power of truly being seen. From a crowded stadium to a quiet front porch in Michigan, this story reminds us that sometimes the most powerful connections are born from pain, not perfection. One man's vulnerability became a bridge to healing, for himself, for a child, and for thousands of others. Because in the end, it's not about the uniform or the medals. It's about being seen, being heard, and knowing that even the deepest scars can help others heal. Let this be a reminder, the best parts of life are never in the script, they're in the moments we choose to care.